Hello and welcome to the second take of episode 7 of the Knitting Traditions Podcast. My name is Inga and you can find me on Ravelry as Knitting Tradition and on Instagram as Knitting Traditions, and that's where I'm the most active if you want to contact me directly. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back, and if you're a new viewer, this is a knitting podcast and you're most welcome here. I talk mainly about what I've been knitting, what I have finished knitting, new cast-ons, this kind of thing. Go through the process of making, and at the end a little sit and knit with me section. And I recorded this video last night. It was 1.5 hours long. The lighting was awful. I live on the west coast of Norway and we're in the beginning of November now, and already now the sun is gone. There are tall mountains around here. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna take my dog into the other room because she's making noises. Okay. So, there are tall mountains around this city that I'm living in. I'm here for the next 4 months working as a family doctor, and for those 4 months the sun will not go high enough up on the sky to get above the mountains, which means there is some daylight, yes, but no direct sun. And usually when I go to work, the sun has just begun to rise, and when I get home it's already dark. So that means that I only get to record on the weekends, and I hope that I get to do a weekly podcast, but sometimes it might have to be a bi-weekly, just because I want there to be a quality to the video as I'm showing you garments, because why show them if you can't really see them? So, what I am wearing, this is an old sweater that I made, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. It is a Norwegian pattern, a free one in Norwegian sadly, called Fnuglet by DSA. I'll put everything below in the YouTube description box with links to things that I mention if I'm able to find links for you. And this is a very basic raglan sweater, set-in sleeves here together with the body, and then you do raglan decreases to the top. And it's a cropped rolled hem and a 3/4 length sleeve with also the rolled hem. And I did not use the yarn for the pattern. I mostly just used this pattern as guidance as to how many stitches I would need. Because I had this yarn in my stash. It's brushed lace by Grundl, I'll put it below, which is a beautiful color called cognac. And whenever I see that a yarn has the name cognac, I know that I'm going to love the color, because my favorite knitted sweater is in a different yarn, my favorite one, Tinde from Hillesvåg, and that color is also named cognac. So it's just the perfect orangey brown warm tone, and I knit this on a 3.5mm needle and I used up 4 skeins, and 1 skein was 25 grams, so that was a total of 4 skeins for my size, because I didn't want to hold it double, because whenever you hold silk mohair or brushed mohair or whatever, when you hold it double, that's double the price. And I didn't really want to spend that much money. I just wanted a thin garment in this color, so it's only 1 thread, and I just found the gauge that I prefer, that I thought the fabric looked nice, not too see-through, still moving and soft, and just went for it hoping that I would have enough to finish the sweater, and I did. I even have some left, I think. I think I had half a skein left, or I had 5 skeins and I used only 4. I can't really remember. It's 4 years ago. I did not know at that time that I would be recording a podcast, so sorry. I have a new cast on because I needed something easy to knit on. Last week was a lot of work, and then this weekend I went to Førde to visit my boyfriend and cousin, and we went hiking, and then to drive to the mountain we hiked up in the forest. I wanted something to knit on in the car, so I cast on a pair of socks. And so this is the first sock. It's a self-striping yarn, and I decided to do an afterthought heel, and I actually picked up for it already now before doing the toe, just because I always struggle when knitting socks in the way that I love the yarn so much that I want it for myself, but then again I also want to give socks away for Christmas. So as I'm knitting on it, I want to knit it for myself, and then, you know, no way I can separate myself from this yarn. And then a few days after I've cast off, that addiction changes, and I feel like it's not a problem. I can give it away for Christmas, it's fine. But then it's too small because I have small feet, 38 European size, and none of the men in my family that I want to knit for has that tiny feet. So what I might do is, some of the other socks I made, I might go back and rip the toe out, knit it longer, and then gift it, now that I've seen what I can, give away. So I might do that. This is the yarn. Very autumnal, very me. Loving those colors. And it's a German yarn. Maybe I lost the ball band. But it's a German yarn. It's called Grundl. And it's a 6-ply yarn. It's called Hot Socks Onda. And it's a 6-ply superwash yarn. And I have to say, I am not a superwash fan. I think that every yarn has its purpose. I do prefer non-superwash yarns just because I don't like the plasticky feeling that it has. However, I must say that this superwash yarn did not feel like a superwash yarn to me. It has like a toothiness to it. It's a bit rough and rustic. It's not completely smooth. So I'm liking the yarn. I'll admit that. And let's see. Yes, here was the ball band. It's Grundl Hot Socks Onda, and it's a sock yarn in the color 8. And I think it's 75% virgin wool and 25% polyamide, which gives it a sturdiness so that when you wear it, it doesn't get holes on the toes and heels. And what I'm gonna do is, I've started the afterthought heel, and I haven't decided if I'll cut out the colored segments and keep it neutral, or if I'm just gonna go with the flow and see what it gives me. I've been working on the balloon sweater by Petite Knit, this way, and it's almost finished. One sleeve done, which I did last week. It's got the big balloon sleeve and then decreases towards the long ribbed cuff. And the other sleeve, I'm almost at the point of where I'm going to do the decreases. And I think that this will soften up nicely when I wash it so that my neck can bear it. And I will block it so that it's more of a boxy one, because right now it's fitted on the boobs and then it's loose and then it's fitted at the waist again, and I didn't like that effect, so I'm gonna block it out to just go straight down. And if I still don't like the fit of it, I might rip back the rib and knit it a little bit longer, because I just broke into the last 50 grams of the Isager Spinni Tweed and the 4th skein of the Hasegawa silk mohair. So far, well, what I had in my stash was 200 gram skeins, so starting this one, I will have, if I use this up, I've used 200 grams for my size, and I had 4 skeins or balls of this silk mohair that I bought in Tokyo. So I'm loving the colors. It looks like a sandy beach to me, like warm wheat colors and some cooler gray tones. And I'm loving how the fabric looks, nice and fluffy, yet a thin warm wool garment. So we'll see what I'll do, if I'll have it finished next time or if I'll be ripping it back and just using whatever I have left. So that's gonna be interesting. 2 episodes ago I was showing this cabled goodness, and it got some love from me in the past week. It's a pattern that I'm kind of making up as I go. It's knit in 2 threads of Holst supersoft, and I swatched and cast on stitches based on that, and then I used some cables that I have from free patterns or that I've knitted before. This one's from the Japanese 250 Stitches book that I showed in the last episode, two episodes ago. And it's got cables on both sides, and I did a complete pattern repeat of this braid since the last time. It takes forever. So right now it's about this length if I hold it under my arms, but the idea is that I'm gonna have it at this length, kind of, because I want to make this to be a unisex sweater that can get a lot of love from not only me but the men in my family, and hopefully passed down through generations to be worn. So what I think I'm gonna do is knit it long enough, separate for front and back, and then pick up stitches and knit the arms going down. And then I think I'll use this cable for the arms, to have one on each arm, because this one is already repeated 4 times already. So we'll see. Oh, I dropped some stitches. No, not fun. So we'll see what happens. I am loving this yarn. It's got tones of red and yellow in the brown. It's called Cinnamon, and I lost something. It's called Cinnamon, and well, I love it. I've knitted with Holst Supersoft before, but only for blankets, so this will be the first garment that I make. So it's going to be interesting to see how it holds up when I wash it, because the blanket did soften up quite a lot, and I don't really want the sweater to soften up too much, so we'll see how it looks. But it's held double, so it's going to be more sturdy than the blanket, which was knit at quite a loose gauge with just 1 thread. And what I did is I bought it on a cone, and then I skeined up a few skeins to hold it double, and I'm using a cable needle to do the cables. Cables are actually not that hard, you just need to pay attention. It tells you how many stitches to put on this, hold it in the front of your work or back, knit a certain amount of stitches, and then knit these stitches, or pull them, however the pattern says. And that's how you make cables. So this was a super cheap one that came in a set of 3. I think I bought it at a grocery store. In Norway, you find yarn and knitting supplies in almost every grocery store and food store. It's a big part of the Norwegian culture, so you can find knitting supplies in every town, I think. I can't speak for every town, but wherever I've been able to find something. So yes, and I've been going through the process of washing wool. I got some fiber from, what's this? I got some fiber from the people I'm renting from. and I've been able to wash up this much of the Norwegian villsau and this much of the Norwegian pelt wool, which is a super curly, nice fiber. I'm not even halfway done with the process. I have a huge batch drying as we speak. It's time consuming for sure, because you have to put it in these kind of laundry bags. You use them for delicates like bras when you throw it in the washing machine. I put the wool in that, and then I leave it to soak in lukewarm water with wool soap for 15 to 30 minutes. And then I repeat that process, changing the water until the water is no longer visibly filthy. And then it's the whole drying process on a drying rack with towels underneath so the fiber doesn't fall through. And that can take 4 to 5 days. So it takes a while, but I'm hoping to finish it all, and I'll be getting some fiber from another friend of mine with a third kind of sheep breed. So I'm really excited to try out some different fibers and teach myself how to spin. I actually talked to my grandma on the phone, and she told me that her mother, my great-grandma, was a spinner. She would take fleeces and do the whole carding cleaning process and spin the yarn, and then she would knit the clothes that my grandma and her siblings would wear. And I thought that was just such a nice sentiment that I could add that tradition to my knitting tradition as well and keep it going. So hopefully I will be able to produce some yarn that can be knitted with. And my grandma came with a great suggestion that if the yarn is wonky and goes from super bulky to a thin fingering, then I can knit a floor blanket to have next to my bed, so that when you get out of bed in the morning and it's really cold, you have this nice rustic blanket on the ground. And I thought that was just such a great idea. So I'm gonna do that if the yarn isn't usable for other garments. And I knitted a cowl. I'm trying to make a pattern, a Selbu inspired pattern. So if that works out, I will let you guys know in a few weeks. I've been trying out some different yarns because I think that cowls are, or this kind of cowl at least, is a one size fits all. And with the pattern that I made, it's either gonna fit you or be too big. And if it's too big, I included a video tutorial that I found on YouTube on how to felt it down. So the idea is that if it's too big, you can felt it down, and felting it will make it more windproof, which is great if you ask me. And that's why the pattern is made for rustic 100% wool yarns, because those are the kind of fibers you can felt. And the only thing to be careful with is to not felt it too much, because then the pattern will kind of disappear. And if you worked hard on getting a pattern, it's kind of, well, you don't want it to disappear now, do you? So I made one sample, which I don't think I'm going to use as the main sample because there's not high enough contrast in the yarn. I recommend taking a black and white photo of the two yarns that you're thinking about, because that will show you if the contrast is high enough to visibly or to easily see that they are different colors. So that's a nice little trick. But this one, I just wanted to cast it on to try out the pattern. I haven't washed it or sewn in the ends or anything. My boyfriend really wanted this one. He liked the colors, and I like the colors too. The color changing one in the background is Kauni effekt yarn. Let's see if I have it here. Yeah, so it's this yarn, Kauni. It's a Danish yarn. The wool is from Estonia, and it kind of changes colors as you see here. And this one was 450 meters per 100 grams, but I didn't have a light white rustic wool to pair with it that had a similar yarn weight or gauge. So I used this one, which was the lightest I could find in my stash. It's BC Shetlandsuld, another Danish yarn company. As Fiber Tales pointed out, I do love my Danish yarns, almost as much as my Norwegian ones. And this one's 450 meters, this one's 400 meters. So this one is slightly thinner, but they're pretty much the same. However, this color and the lighter color of the Kauni yarn did not have that high of a contrast, so the pattern doesn't pop as much as I would like. Also, when knitting in a pattern, if you have one that is thicker than the other, it's preferable to use the thicker one for the pattern itself, because that will make it pop more. And as you see here, I did the opposite. So I'm going to be making another one in thicker yarn, just to showcase how different yarn weights can be used. In the pattern it's 3mm needles, and I will be knitting anything from 450 meters per 100 grams to thicker yarns that's down to 350 meters per 100 grams. And I think they will both work. If you knit loosely and it gets too big, you could felt it, or if you swatch, you could always go down in needle size. So for me, this one is a little bit too wide if I have my hair up in a bun or something, because I have a quite slim neck. But for my boyfriend, it was perfect. He also has a beard, so it kind of fills it out nicely. I will have to wash and block it to see how it turns out in the end. But yeah, no, I really like it. I drew inspiration from the traditional curly Selbu rows, but I did do a few changes to the center part, as well as some changes to the twirls itself. And this part I designed myself as well. And yeah, 3mm needles with rustic wool from light fingering to sports thin DK, I think you could use. My cousin is knitting up a sample in Hillesvåg, which is the yarn Tinda, and that one has actually 260 meters on 100 grams, so it's a much thicker yarn. I think you'd call it a DK. She knits very tightly, so she did not go down in needle size. She's actually testing it as the pattern instructs, and then if it gets too big, she's gonna felt it down a little bit. So that's the general idea of it, and we'll see if it bears any fruit. I am using my Knit Pro folder for the first time. This is a magnetic board where you put your pattern and you have little magnets and a magnetic stripe to kind of tell you which row you're on, to keep track of where you are. And it comes with a little pen and a pocket for other patterns or whatever you wish to keep in there. And I have to say, I used to have all my patterns on my phone, but I have found that when you're doing charted color work, having it in front of you in paper on like a bigger scale is so much better and so much faster. Especially for patterns like this where every row changes, having to always go on your phone and like increase the size and move it around, let's just say it's much better to have it on paper. And I'm working on a sample now. I have not gotten very far, as you see. I keep losing stitches today. I'm knitting on 3mm Knit Pro or Knitter's Pride needles, interchangeable set, on 60mm cord, and I have this cute little wooden sock progress keeper from Strikkesilla to mark the beginning of the round. And this sample, I am using the same yarn for both colors. This is Rauma Finull, a Norwegian yarn, which is great for color work. It's a fingering yarn of 350 meters per 100 grams, but they come in 50-gram balls, and they have so many beautiful colors, and you can find them abroad as well. I know that Espace Tricot in Canada holds this yarn. They've actually made some patterns using it as well, free patterns. And I'm pretty sure you can find it in the US as well. And I think they also ship directly from Rauma. So I'm using these two colors. This is a new heathered color line that they've done in the Finull, and I just love the color in this. I'm so glad that I re-recorded this video now, because the colors pop a lot more in natural daylight than in the dark, even though I got this construction light to improve the lighting. Natural light is so much better. So these two colors I'm working on now, and in Førde there are 2 yarn stores, if you don't include the food stores that hold yarns, and one of them specialize in fiber Norwegian yarns mainly, and they have. Does this happen to you guys as well? You eat your yarn? Okay. Just drink some tea. This, let me digress for a second. This is red tea with pineapple flavor from Bioactive is the company. And I'm drinking it in this cute little ceramic cup mug thing that I bought in Poznan when I lived and studied there. There was this store on my street that sold crafted items made by people in the area. So I got this as a nice memory of my time there. Yes, yarn store. I have yarn acquisitions! So I hope you enjoy yarn acquisitions as much as me. In this store, with all the Norwegian Rauma and Sandnes garn, I got some Finull in different colors. Let's see if I can pick them all up for you guys. So I got 4 colors. Yeah. So there is this custard, this orangey brown, this reddish brown, and this heathered green. And these 3 are the heathered ones, and this one is more of a solid. And the idea of this is that I got several of the light beige, its color is 0403. I got several of these to pair 1 and 1 with these colors. And the idea is to make either cowls to give away for Christmas, or to make mittens, because on my last yarn haul at a knitting festival I got the Selbu mitten book, and I really want to make some mittens for myself. I used to get them for Christmas from my grandma, and I really want to learn how to knit some myself. So that's the general idea of this, and I was also thinking that if the pattern that I'm trying to make turns out okay, I will include this, which is the same as the sample I'm knitting in, together with the pattern for a prize, because there is a lovely prize coming my way from a maker from the UK. So I was thinking of doing a rustic knit along. So I think I'll talk about that next episode once I have that item coming my way. So I want to do a rustic knit along with prizes for the winner, but I'm not sure yet if I will host it in the comments below, or maybe separate it and do it on Instagram, which is what I think is most convenient, or perhaps on Ravelry. So maybe you can let me know below what you prefer, and then I'll see what the majority thinks and go from there. So that's just something that I've been thinking, and for me, rustic, the most important thing is that it's not superwashed. I'm sorry if you prefer superwash yarn, but I just really want to do a rustic knit along. And if you live in a country where you don't have access to natural fibers and you're not able to order it online, then I will allow you to use plant fibers such as bamboo, linen, nettle, is that a fiber? It's the itchy plant that you don't want to touch. I know that some people actually make yarn from that, so there are options for everyone. Yes, and then I went to the other knitting store because my cousin wanted to get Tinde in a white color for the cowl that she was testing for me, because she already had a pink in her stash. And I saw this yarn. This is, I'm not even sorry, this is my color. This is Arvetta from Filcolana in the color 352, and it's to be paired with Tilia from Filcolana in the color 352. So this is to make a knitted hat because winter is coming and I need more hats, and I don't have a hat in this color. So that's what I'm gonna make. I wasn't sure which hat I'm gonna make. Petite Knit has several hats that uses this yarn, so I'll probably make one of her basic hats. And there's one that uses only this yarn, and then some that uses a combined combo. So I'm not quite sure which one it's gonna be. I'll have to think about it. I actually already have this in my stash, I think 4 skeins of this, that I want to use for a sweater. But I've been scared to cast it on because I wasn't sure that I would have enough yarn. So the idea behind this hat in the exact same color is that whatever leftovers I have, I can put into the sweater. And this is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. But for a hat, when you knit a hat, no, I'm not gonna lie, I would prefer if this was not superwash, but I have a very scratchy forehead, so this makes it less scratchy. However, I have knitted with this yarn before, and my experience with superwash is that when you wash it, it tends to grow because it doesn't have that toothiness that unprocessed wool has that allows it to stick to the fiber next to it. This one doesn't really have that because of the superwash treatment. So I find that the stitches tend to kind of slip away from each other, and you risk having a hat that's too big. So what I did last time, which worked out nicely, is that I make the junior size for my head. I do have a tiny head though, so I think I'm already between junior and female adult sized head. So that worked for me. And I also ordered some yarn online that came in the mail because I'm gonna be making a sweater for the lady that I'm renting from, and it's my favorite sweater pattern in my favorite yarn and color, which is this. This is Tinde from Hillesvåg It's Norwegian pelt wool, which is the same fiber that I'm currently washing and processing. And it's 260 meters per this 100 gram skein, and 3 skeins is enough to make the mellomtrøya pattern by doublle design, which is a cropped, slightly boxy sweater. And it's the one that I've used the most. I think I have like 4 versions of it. She also has a short-sleeved version and a jacket version, and I love it. This wool is the perfect thickness because it's a thinner wool garment, but it's super warm. I love the design and the shape. And the thing about this fiber is that the more you wear it, the more it softens up. And it gets a halo that looks like it has mohair knitted into it. So the more you wear the sweater, the more fuzzy it gets. So it does look like you've knitted with mohair, but it's not. It's the Norwegian pelt wool, and it's related to the Gotland wool. So if you've tried knitting with that, I think this might be slightly similar. So these 3 were for her, and then I got some to make a shawl, or no, not a shawl, a scarf, also by doublle design, and it uses 5 skeins, so it's humongous. So these are, let's see if I can hold it up. These are the colors. These are the 3 colors, and you make a super long scarf with color work and tassels at the ends. I did order 3 light gray ones to go because I couldn't decide if I wanted to have these 2 colors with light gray or if this was the combo that I would have in my scarf. Sadly, I got the wrong color, so I think I'm gonna be making the scarf in these colors, which I do love. This is my favorite, so why not have the most of it in the scarf. The color that I did get that I didn't want is this color. This is denim blue. I mean, it's a gorgeous color, but blue isn't really my thing unless it's like a royal blue. It's beautiful. It's like a gray. It's a gray blue. And I have 3 of them. And I did contact Hillesvåg and ask them what to do, and they said that I could return it and get it swapped for the color that I want. However, I would have to pay shipping costs myself, and for me to pay shipping to Hillesvåg and back from Hillesvåg, that would be the same amount as what these 2 cost. So I would basically only get the value of 1 changed. I might as well just buy another 2 in the right color. So what I think I'm going to do is that I will put this aside, and if I can't find a project for these, I will include them in a future giveaway or a knit along prize, because it is my favorite yarn and I want to share it with the world if I'm not going to use it myself. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Okay, and in the last episode I contacted the winner of the last giveaway, and she wanted the yellow sock yarn, which means that I have the gray fjord sock yarn for myself. So what I'm gonna do with these is I'm gonna knit up a simple pair of socks with knit to, purl to all the way. So ribbed socks, very rustic, warm house socks. I think I'm gonna keep them myself because I really do want to try this yarn before making it for other people. And if I love it and I don't mind the purling, I'll probably make more in the future. So stay tuned for this at some uncertain future episode time, because I have so many whips, so many things that I want to make, so I just have to start in one end and see when I get to the other. So yeah, that was everything that I've been making this week. So I was thinking of doing a little sit and knit with me section again. Just pick up my knitting. Hopefully this one will be finished by the next episode. I hope you're all doing well and that you find some time to lean back and relax. I know that I definitely need knitting in my day to keep me calm and peaceful. This episode, thankfully, is shorter than the one I recorded last night. I'm not good with technology. I can't seem to make it work. I was trying to edit the video and the audio and the video as I saved it just didn't overlap correctly. There was like an audio lag, which wasn't there when I was working with the video. It was only after I saved it that happened. So I tried many different things, doing it on my computer, on my phone, different apps of editing. Nothing really worked. And also the lighting wasn't great, so I figured, you know what? I'll try and re-record today, hopefully remember some of the things that I said yesterday. And if it's shorter, maybe it will be easier to upload correctly. So how has your week been? Are you knitting on something new? I love to see what you comment when you mention what you're knitting on, because it's a nice inspiration, especially when people put links to the projects, then I can just go directly there and see. And it feeds the knitting mojo to see all the beautiful patterns. And I recommend, if you don't have an Instagram account just for your knitting, I do recommend it. For the longest amount of time, I just used my normal Instagram, but then I realized that I was pestering people with all my knitting. So I created an account, the Knitting Traditions account, just for my knitting. And on that account, I also only follow other knitters, so that my feed on that Instagram is just knitting related. And it's the best inspiration, I have to say. Whenever I go on there, there's just so many beautiful projects and people cheering each other on, and it's just a pure loving knitting community on there, which I think is great. So if you don't have that, I do recommend it, especially if I do the knit along on there. It's nice to have an Instagram account just for knitting. That's all you want to do. You don't have to share anything either. You can just have an account to follow others. I know a lot of people do that. It's really great inspiration, and I think it's much easier to use than Ravelry. But Ravelry is good for keeping track of projects with information, of course, and to link to things. Ravelry is great for that. So we'll see what we end up using. I've been getting so many lovely comments that I'm just in awe. It's really made my week. I think I've spent more than 5 hours just reading through the comments. It's just been huge. So much love. And wow, just thank you. If you have left a comment, thank you so much. Know that I read every single comment, even though I don't have the time to reply to everyone, which I really wish I did. It means the world to me. So I just want to say thank you. And if people are annoyed by the fact that there are ads at the beginning of the video, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to have ads on the video, but I realized that my followers are from all over the world, and I want to be able to send prizes and giveaways to everyone, no matter where they live, if they live in Norway or if they live in Argentina, I think everyone should be eligible to win a prize, independently of where they may live. And because of that, shipping in Norway is extremely expensive. So the ads are there only to fund the giveaways and cow prizes, so that I'll be able to send it. So that's why they're there, and I hope that's okay. So that was a little admin-y comment, sorry. I don't really have to look down at my knitting if I knit stockinette, but this one has 2 strands, so it's quite easy to slip one, which is why I have to make sure that I don't, because I don't like to rip back. I don't know about you guys, if you make a mistake, do you rip back? Do you try to just fix it somehow? Or do you just move on and live on happily, not minding that there's a mistake? I personally don't rip back. I try to fix it, and if I can't fix it, I just move on and I try to forget about it. And if it's not something that I'll wear because of the mistake, I might give it away to someone who will never know. Or if it's not wearable, I will just put it aside and try not to think about it. I'd rather do that than rip back half the project. I'm so bad. I hate ripping back. It's just so many hours of love and work gone into it. I just don't want to delete it all. I feel like a failure. But yeah, it would be interesting to hear what you guys do. I think people are very different there. I think that mistakes are a part of knitting. It's what makes it unique. It tells a story, and it's not supposed to be perfect, in my opinion. If it was that, you would have it made in a factory and not made with love at home. Maybe I can talk a little bit about the Netflix section. There has been so many lovely comments recommending different movies and TV shows for me to watch. I do love the kind of action, slightly grotesque series. Game of Thrones, my favorite. I recently rewatched Penny Dreadful, really like that. People have been recommending The Witcher, love that one as well. And Outlander, I've watched Outlander several times. I'm starting to think that I have an issue because I think everything people has commented, I have already watched, except for one show, I think, and one movie. Do I have an issue? Do I watch too much TV? Maybe. But that's what I do. I work, I eat, I sit and knit while I watch TV and podcasts. There's also been some great podcast recommendations. And most of them I actually already follow. I just can't mention every podcast because I can't remember their names on the top of my head if I'm kind of just going through a long list of names. So, but one of them was the Woolly Mammoth, which is an indie dyer from Ireland. She is lovely, she's very calm, she knits in beautiful muted tones, and she hand dyes with plant fibers. So if you do enjoy calm podcasts, you should check her out. And see, there were so many more suggestions, which I also love. But maybe I can mention one per episode or something to kind of bring attention to them on my podcast. Because I think sharing in the knitting love and the knitting community, that's why we're here. It's hard to connect to people these days. We're not supposed to. There's a stigma around traveling and seeing other people. So being able to connect to people online in the knitting community is great. I truly cherish the fact that I get to be a part of your day for an hour or so. And I love it when you guys respond and reach back, and I feel like there's a connection. And yeah, there was a few questions on the Ravelry group. I made a thread at the Knitting Traditions Space podcast group. And I wanted to see if I could answer some of those questions today. Alright, so okay. What was your first stranded colorwork project, and do you have any tips or tricks for stranded colorwork? So my first one was a pair of vanilla socks that I found a Selbu rose chart online, and I applied it to the leg of the sock, and I had never knitted stranded work or color work before, and it was super tight, and I didn't catch my floats. So it didn't turn out very well. So I think I have 3 main tips. 1, make sure that the colors you use are high enough in contrast so that the pattern will stand out. And do that by taking a black and white photo of the yarn next to each other. Sorry. Secondly, when you're knitting, pull the stitches on your right needle as you're working so that the floats in the back aren't too tight. Oh, this is a mess. So what I mean is that this is the needle I hold in my right hand like this. When you're working, pull them like this every 3 or 4 stitches to make sure that your floats are long enough in the back so that you don't get this snurpy effect. And, oh, see, I keep dropping stitches. Second advice is catch your floats. The easiest way of doing that is just to twist the yarn around each other in the back every 2 to 3 stitches when you're knitting. Let's say you did a white stitch and then you're knitting several stitches in the other color. You want to twist the yarn every 2 to 3 red stitch until you knit with a white one again. This is to prevent having long strands in the back that catch when you put your hand or foot or whatever through, that you don't get caught in those strands. And there are many tutorials online. I knit continental style, so what I do is I hold the strands on my left finger, and I hold one on each side of my knuckle, and that allows me to pick the colors, and then when I want to twist, I just go under the color that I want to kind of catch, and then I knit the other one that I'm knitting with, if that makes sense. I'm not really good at explaining this. There are nice tutorials online, and I will probably link one in this pattern so that people can see. And then Ruby Tuesday wrote, "Hi Inga, it seems you just design a lot of your sweaters as you go along. Can you talk a bit more about your process?" Okay, so I start out with the yarn. I find some yarn in my stash and I want to make a sweater with it. If I have enough of it, then I will make a swatch with a needle size that I think will be suitable. Usually the ball band suggests a needle size, and if I'm pairing 2 strands, I will go up a needle size or 2 depending on how thick the yarn is. And I will knit a swatch, and if I don't like the fabric, I will do a purl row in the swatch and then change the needle either up or down depending on if I think the gauge is too loose or tight, and then I just repeat. I knit stockinette, and the swatch should be at least this size, I think. And I just repeat the process until I have a fabric I like. Then I measure with the ruler 10 centimeters or 4 inches in the middle of the swatch so that the stitches are not dragged in any directions by the borders. So in the middle I measure it, and then I see the gauge that I have, and then I either look at other patterns with the same gauge to see approximately how many stitches are used for the kind of shape that I'm looking for, or I just measure myself and see how many centimeters wide I want the sweater, and then I divide that centimeters number by 10, and that gives me how many repeats of my swatch I need to get that size. So let's say I get the number 6, then I multiply 6 by the amount of stitches in my gauge swatch, and that tells me how many stitches I need. And then I have this lovely book. This is the knitting book by DK. The authors are Vicky Heffenden and Frederica Patmore. This is a great book for any beginner knitter or just any knitter to have in their bookshelf. I know that Vogue also has a knitting book very similar to this. And let's see if there has yeah. So it starts out by talking about different types of yarns and needles, knitting equipment, how to care for your garments, and then it has a stitch pattern gallery with different kinds of techniques, how to do them, like how to knit cables, lace work, color work, tips and tricks. It also has different patterns and instructions on how to do those patterns if you want to implement them into your own designs. And yeah, it's a great book. So it talks about the different fibers, the different yarns, and their properties, what they're good for. There's a lot of yarns in here that I've never tried before. And yeah, it talks about the different yarn weights and what the recommended needle sizes are. And they have these beautiful, what would you call them, stitch patterns. And then later on, charts on how to do them, or written explanations. They have lace work, color work, they have like techniques. Just showing it fast so I don't give away anything. And yeah, no, it also has some explanations on like how to do increases and decreases and yarn overs and anything a beginner knitter might be wondering about. And yeah, I've used this book a lot, especially in the beginning. And no, it's good. It's a really good book. I highly recommend if you want to try making something your own, or if you just want like a reference book for different techniques and such. Yeah. So, yeah. I think that's all for today, mostly. In another episode, when I have less acquisitions to show off, I think what I want to do is do a little sit and knit with me section where maybe I can talk a bit more about Norway and the culture here. I know I've got a lot of lovely comments from people wanting to hear more about other cultures and kind of having a virtual travel together, and I think that's a great idea. So yeah, maybe I'll do a little section about society here and how it is to live in Norway, and try and remember what is special things, you know, you kind of take for granted that this is just normal when you live here, but of course there are differences to every country, even Sweden, Denmark and Norway, which are all parts of Scandinavia, and we understand each other and we are similar. There are still slight differences, so I think I will make a little section about that. I always, before making the podcast, I think about what I'm going to talk about, and then as I'm sitting and recording, I forget everything. So So if there is something specific you want me to talk about, let me know. Maybe let me know on Ravelry in that questions thread, because then definitely I will be able to find it again for future episodes. You can also contact me on Instagram in the direct messages there, or leave a comment below. I will definitely be reading it, and I hope to hear from you guys, and I hope that you're doing well, staying safe, that you're enjoying fall or spring, depending on where in the world you live, and that you're making all the beautiful things. And hopefully I will see you guys next week, if not 2 weeks.